Somewhere around 10,500 years ago, a human being walked up to a 2,000-pound wild animal with horns the length of your arm and decided to grab it by the udder. Think about that for 1 second. Not domesticated, not friendly, not standing patiently in a field waiting to be milked. This was an aurochs, the wild ancestor of every cow on the planet today, and it was terrifying. Aurochs stood over 6 feet tall at the shoulder. They were faster than horses, more aggressive than bulls, and strong enough to gore a human clean through. Cave paintings in Lascaux show them rendered larger than any other animal, because to the people drawing them, they were the most dangerous thing in the landscape. And somebody looked at that animal and thought, I'm going to drink what comes out of there. We don't know who did it first. We don't know their name, their tribe, or what was going through their head in that exact moment. But we know, with remarkable precision, when and where it happened. And the story of how we got from do not approach to cereal aisle is one of the strangest accidents in human history. Let's start with what scientists actually know. Cattle domestication did not happen once, by accident, in a single afternoon. It happened as the final stage of a process that had already been running for thousands of years. By the time anyone touched an udder, humans had already domesticated sheep and goats. Smaller, easier to catch, easier to control. That happened around 9,000 to 10,000 years ago in the same general region. The Fertile Crescent, the curve of fertile land running through what is now Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Humans living there were already farming wheat and barley. They were already living in permanent settlements instead of following herds across open land. The infrastructure for domestication, fences, pens, food storage, the basic concept of keeping an animal alive on purpose instead of hunting it, already existed. Cattle were harder. Genetic analysis of cattle DNA points to a domestication event around 10,500 years ago in roughly the same Fertile Crescent region, with a second, completely independent domestication happening around 9,000 years ago in the Indus Valley, in what is now Pakistan. Two separate human populations, with no contact with each other, looked at wild aurochs and arrived at the same conclusion. This animal is worth controlling. But here's the detail that gets lost in every retelling of this story. The genetic bottleneck is staggering. Researchers studying ancient cattle DNA found evidence that the entire taurine cattle lineage, every cow descended from that first Near Eastern domestication, which today includes most cattle in Europe, Africa, and the Americas, may trace back to a population of roughly 80 animals. 80 aurochs, captured and controlled well enough to breed in captivity, are the genetic ancestors of the more than 1 billion cattle alive on Earth today. 80. That's not a herd. That's a small group of extremely brave, extremely stubborn humans who managed to corner, restrain, and selectively breed one of the most dangerous animals in their environment, repeatedly until it stopped trying to kill them. Let's actually sit with how physically difficult that was. An aurochs bull could weigh as much as a small car. It had no instinct to cooperate, no understanding of fences, no reason to trust anything wearing animal skin and carrying a sharpened stick. Capturing one alive as a calf before it grew large enough to be unmanageable meant getting close to a herd guarded by adults who absolutely would charge. Early humans likely had to study aurochs' behavior for generations before they ever attempted this, learning migration patterns, grazing habits, herd structure, all the things you'd need to know to isolate a young calf without getting trampled by its mother. This wasn't a single clever idea. It was a slow accumulation of observation, risk, and failure, passed down across dozens of generations, until someone finally got it to work reliably enough that it became a tradition instead of a one-time fluke. So why bother in the first place? Why not just hunt aurochs the way humans had hunted them for tens of thousands of years already? Because hunting is unpredictable. You chase an animal, you might catch it, you might not, and either way, once it's dead, that's it. The food runs out. Domestication flips the entire equation. A living animal that you control is not a single meal. It's a renewable resource. Meat when you need it, but also hide for clothing and shelter, bone for tools, manure for fertilizing crops, and eventually muscle power for pulling plows. Early farmers weren't thinking about milk first. They were thinking about an animal that could work for them and feed them without disappearing into the horizon. This shift, from chasing food to growing it, is genuinely one of the biggest turning points in the entire history of our species. Anthropologists call it the Neolithic Revolution, and cattle domestication sits right at the center of it. A domesticated herd meant a community no longer had to follow animals across the landscape. It meant food could be stockpiled instead of consumed the moment it was caught. It meant population density could increase because a single herd could feed far more people than a hunting party ever could. Villages grew into towns. Surplus food meant some people no longer needed to spend all day finding their next meal, which meant the first specialists, toolmakers, builders, eventually priests and rulers, could exist at all. None of that works without a reliable, controllable food source. Cattle were one of the engines that made it possible. Milk came later, and milk, specifically, created a problem nobody saw coming. Here's something that almost never gets mentioned. For most of human history, adults could not drink milk. Human bodies produce an enzyme called lactase that breaks down lactose, the sugar in milk, but in every mammal species on Earth, including humans, that enzyme normally shuts off after infancy. You need it to digest your mother's milk as a baby. Once you're weaned, your body assumes you'll never need it again, and production drops off. This is still true for the majority of adult humans alive right now. Roughly 2/3 of the global adult population is lactose intolerant. It is the biological default. So when early farmers in the Fertile Crescent first started milking these newly domesticated cattle, they were producing something that most of the adults in their own community could not properly digest. Drinking raw milk as a grown adult would have meant bloating, cramping, and diarrhea for most of the population. This is not a great start for a food source, and yet they kept doing it. Why? Because they figured out a workaround almost immediately, even without understanding the biology behind it. Fermentation. If you let milk sit and ferment, bacteria break down much of the lactose before it ever reaches your gut. The result is yogurt, cheese. These were not modern inventions layered onto dairy farming centuries later. Archaeological evidence shows cheese-making residue in pottery sieves more than 7,000 years old. Within a few thousand years of domesticating cattle, humans had already figured out how to process milk into something their own bodies could actually tolerate. Think about the engineering problem they accidentally solved. They had no concept of bacteria, no concept of enzymes, no microscope, no biology textbook. All they had was trial and error, repeated across generations, watching what happened when milk sat in a container made of clay or an animal's stomach for a few days. Someone noticed that the spoiled-looking version was actually edible and didn't make people sick the way fresh milk did. That observation, repeated and refined over centuries, became cheese-making techniques sophisticated enough that we are still essentially using the same basic fermentation principles today, just with better equipment. But something else was happening at the same time, something far stranger. Evolution was paying attention. In populations where dairy farming became central to survival, primarily in parts of Europe and the Middle East, a random genetic mutation appeared that kept the lactase gene switched on into adulthood. In any other context, this mutation would have been irrelevant, just genetic noise. But in a population that had cows producing fresh milk every single day, that mutation meant something enormous. People who carried it could drink milk straight from the source without getting sick. They could access an entire calorie-dense, nutrient-rich food supply that the rest of their community physically couldn't use, and calories meant survival. In a world where famine was a constant threat, people who could digest milk directly had a measurable survival advantage over people who couldn't. They had more surviving children. Those children inherited the mutation. Over a few thousand years, in dairy farming populations, this trait spread through entire regions until it became the majority condition instead of the rare exception. This is one of the fastest, most well-documented examples of natural selection acting on a human population in our entire genetic record. Geneticists can actually trace the spread of lactase persistence across Europe almost like a wave, radiating outward from the regions where cattle domestication and dairy farming took hold earliest. What's remarkable is how recent this is, on an evolutionary timescale. Most traits that define our species took hundreds of thousands of years to spread. Lactase persistence spread across entire populations in roughly 4,000 to 7,000 years, which in genetic terms is almost instantaneous. It's one of the cleanest examples scientists have of culture directly reshaping biology. Humans didn't just adapt to their environment the slow way, through random chance over immense stretches of time. They built a new environment, domesticated cattle, daily milk production, and that environment turned around and rewrote their genetic code within a few hundred generations. In other words, that one terrified, possibly desperate decision to milk a wild, furious aurochs literally rewrote the human genome. Not metaphorically, literally. There are specific letters in your DNA if you happen to be one of the roughly 1/3 of humans who can drink a glass of milk without consequence, that exist because of a chain of events set in motion by someone you will never know anything about, standing in front of an animal that could have killed them 10,500 years ago. So what was that first person thinking? We will never actually know. Desperation during famine is one theory. Drink anything that might keep you alive. Opportunism is another. Calves were already being taken from their mothers, and the milk was simply there, going to waste. Some researchers even point to evidence that milking may have started almost by accident, as a side effect of the close physical handling required to control these massive animals during early domestication, long before anyone thought of milk as food at all. What we do know is that whoever it was didn't have a plan. They couldn't have known that fermentation would solve the lactose problem. They couldn't have known that a random mutation in their descendants would eventually let entire populations drink milk freely. They definitely couldn't have known that 10,000 years later, billions of humans would walk into buildings specifically designed to sell that liquid in dozens of flavors, packaged in cardboard, sitting 2 feet from cereal, made from another plant. Their ancestors had only recently learned to farm. They were just a person, standing in front of a dangerous animal, making a decision that had absolutely no guarantee of working out. And it became one of the most consequential food choices in the entire history of our species. Every glass of milk you have ever had a connection to traces back to that moment. Somebody, somewhere in the Fertile Crescent, 10,500 years ago, looked at an animal capable of killing them and decided to get closer instead of staying away. We don't know their name, we will never know their face, but their decision is sitting in your DNA right now, whether you can drink milk or not.